Yeah.
Welcome back to the Front Office Report. How you doing, Dan?
Good. I mean, what an eventful last 24 hours, really. Like, wow.
Yeah,
Especially
yeah.
if you're
Oh my
English.
goodness. Yeah. It has been quite a 24 hours. We are here to talk about yesterday's Europa. What am I saying? Euros
Close.
final. Yeah. I got the first four letters right. Euros final was yesterday. Italy did win. Went through to penalties. Took it on
Yeah.
the penalties.
Yeah.
Um, We'll go. I'm going to ask your opinion first before I go on my ultimate Gareth Southgate rant because oh my god, am I going to go on a Southgate rant in a second?
Might be needed.
Um,
It's like a
yeah,
therapy
oh,
session
so
for you.
needed.
It's like a therapy
This
session.
is going to be my therapy. Yeah, I've been needing this. What did you think? I mean, personally, I think the best team actually did win.
Right.
To be
Yeah.
honest.
I do too. And, Italy thoroughly deserved to win almost on every single front. They were better than England. I think the one plaudit, that you can give England is they defended well because, Insigne was an absolute menace yesterday. He is so good. So
Good.
talented. But England, the defense did hold up very well. But I guess when you have seven players, like a back seven almost defending, it's
Yeah,
quite
pretty much.
difficult
Yeah,
to break
yeah.
down. Um, but yeah, I just didn't like the way England went around this game. The first 2 minutes, excellent. England went straight at Italy, and that's exactly what they needed to do, shell shock Italy. But then,
Yep.
the following 7 minutes, they were still there a little bit, but then it just completely died off. And I saw one of the pundits saying basically England had their ass in their box the entire game, and they didn't want to do anything else with it. Because I don't really remember Harry Kane doing anything that game. Really did
No.
nothing.
No.
That's no real fault of him, I would say. It's more the fault of, Italy would go up and attack, they would lose the ball, England would just hoof it away. And that's what really annoyed me. And I'm not an England fan by any means, but it just really annoyed me when Jordan Pickford would get the ball and you just smash it up to Harry Kane to hopefully bring down, and it was just not a good tactic at all. Italy were going to break you down eventually, and that's what they did. It's tiring to defend against an Italian team that almost kind of played a bit Spanish-like when they were passing the ball, in that midfield area. It was just constant battering of attack after attack after attack.
Yeah.
So, at one point you're gonna be mentally tired, you're gonna be fatigued, and it came, and somehow they managed to survive the whole 90 minutes. But it was coming. It was definitely coming. So now I need to move on to you. What's your take on it? What went wrong? What went wrong?
I mean, you did sort of sum it up there pretty well. It was a great start. I thought the first 15 minutes, I might give us maybe even 20. We were really good.
Right.
Brilliant goal. That was Harry Kane's one involvement, was playing that pass out
Right.
wide
Yeah.
for the overlap on the right hand side.
That was a great
Um,
ball.
a great ball into the box as well. What a finish from Luke Shaw, who had
Yeah.
a brilliant
I
tournament.
couldn't
To be
believe
honest.
it. I couldn't believe it when he
I
scored.
when
I was
it,
like, "There's
when the
no
ball
way."
first was coming over, I was like, Luke Shaw, it's
There's
gone to
no
him, and then
way.
he just put it in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was in the pub. The pub absolutely just went off. That was amazing. It was great. But yeah, it was from there. I did think at the time that's really really early, maybe
Yeah.
a little bit too early for us to
Yeah.
score because we literally did just like shut up shop.
Yeah.
And I remember saying after like 15-20 minutes to my mates, if we just sit like this the whole game, just repelling wave after wave after wave of attack from the Italians, they are going to score.
That's gonna
It
come
was
back and bite
inevitable.
you. Yeah. Yeah. There's no way you can
100%.
defend against
Yeah.
this team for 90 minutes. If you're defending against Scotland or Wales or some minor team for 90 minutes, it's definitely possible to do. But you're playing against a team that beat Belgium, and beat Spain. It's just, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe the way that they went about it, because I really do think if they continued to attack that first half, England would have had a way better chance. I just don't understand this English mentality of having to kind of take your foot off the gas almost and be like, okay, we're gonna have to park the bus now. We could only score one goal. We don't believe in ourselves to go out and score more goals. And that's what I took away from it. It was like, they couldn't believe that they got a goal, so they were like, "Holy crap, we just need to defend now. Like this is it. We're unable to score anymore." And you think about it, and it's like you have probably three of the most talented, midfield players in the English Premier League, and then the best striker in the Premier League, and you can't break down two old Chiellini and Bonucci's,
it's like 35-year-old Italian men, yeah.
Yeah, it's rather odd.
Yeah, it was, but I have said this through the entire tournament. You can go back. I have the receipts. Go through our videos.
Yeah,
I've said the whole way through, Southgate is just not a good enough manager because it was his decisions that put us in the position that it did go all the way through, and we did just repel a wave after wave after wave. I thought the fact that Mount stayed on the pitch for as long as he did was a disgrace.
I agree.
He was literally, I can't think of one thing that he did. I cannot think of one thing he did throughout the whole game to actually contribute. Then the substitutions that he made, Southgate, were baffling. To bring Henderson on, I was like, yes, that is exactly what we need. Someone, and this isn't just me as a Liverpool fan, someone who has the experience in pressurized situations. He's been in finals, he's been in Champions Leagues. Like that's who we need.
Right. Yeah, we talked about that earlier. Remember? Yeah.
We did. Yeah. To then take him off before the penalty shootout, I thought was ridiculous. To then bring on Rashford and Sancho. Presumably just for the penalty shootout, but to give them did they touch the ball? Either of them? They're not warm.
So, yeah.
They've not got into the game. To then just be thrust into that penalty shootout situation, I thought was also utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
His choice of penalty takers, I think, is disgusting. To put Saka into that situation as the fifth penalty shooter. Who, as I've found out today, I think it was one of you guys may have said, never taken a penalty in a professional football game in his life.
Never.
I just think for a manager who has been through penalty shootouts and who had the heartbreak for England, well publicized that he went through exactly the same thing for England. He knows what it's like, and especially in the environment we're in nowadays, where the abuse that we've seen online for those three players today has been absolutely disgusting. But you knew as soon as it happened, everyone knows that's exactly what's going to happen. Like I just think the whole handling of the game by Southgate was a shambles. And I just think he should go. I'm going to say this over and over again. He has to go. He has to go.
I saw a poll on the BBC News sports website, and they said, you think Gareth Southgate should be the manager of England for the Qatar World Cup, and 64% of people said yes. So, which is an overwhelming for usually people, fans in general, whether it's football or basketball or NFL, it doesn't matter. You're rather emotional for the next couple months until it's kind of washed over you. For that percentage to be that high, straight after a loss and some rather dodgy decision making was rather shocking to me. But I do definitely agree with you on the substitutions. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why you bring on two guys who you've given really no time to, even in the group stage. I think Sancho played one game. England were already through anyway, so you kind of just threw him on. Rashford I think he came on in the first game against Croatia as a substitute, I remember.
Yeah, I think he played a bit more in the group games.
Yeah, I played in the group games, but I don't remember him coming on kind of after that.
Not a massive amount. Though.
No, exactly. Whether you play, group stages are very different to playing knockout games. The atmosphere is very, very different. So yeah, it was rather baffling to bring on two guys who are just not into the Euros, not in that way, but just are not warmed up. It was just so weird. And to me, as someone who's played football and coached football, whenever a penalty shootout comes, it's not who the best player is, it's who is the most comfortable and the most confident, because anybody can take a penalty. Anybody. You don't even have to be a football player to be able to shoot a ball from a couple of yards.
I've taken a Sunday league penalty back in my day.
Exactly. And it's not a difficult technique to do it, but it's the confidence, it's the mentality. and you're throwing in
it's all
two
mind
guys
games,
who
isn't
have
it?
not touched the ball, plus Saka, who, I don't know why, if as an Arsenal fan, and I'm going to take this from an Arsenal perspective for a little bit now.
Yeah.
If he was to take one, say, in the FA Cup final, I would have no issue with it because Saka is, star boy. He is, the future of England. He can do whatever he wants. He does no wrong. He's just a fantastic kid, fantastic football player. But to give him the fifth penalty and a sudden death situation, and fifth penalty is where
surely you know that there is a chance that it could go to that fifth penalty and he could have to take the deciding penalty.
Yeah, but that's the thing is I don't understand why you don't have John Stones, Raheem Sterling, Jack Grealish, Jordan Henderson, who shouldn't have been taken off and should be in that moment there because he's been through penalty shootouts before. So it was weird to put a kid in a situation where he's never been in before. And it was the same with Sancho as well. I don't think Borussia Dortmund have ever had a penalty shootout in the Champions League final or anything like that.
Yeah.
Well, he's been there. Marcus Rashford's kind of similar too. When have Manchester United got to a final like that?
The only one I can think of is the Europa League, but I don't.
I mean, it's the difference between the Europa League where nobody really cares and Euros is night and day.
The biggest game that England have had in 50 years.
Oh, easily.
And the hype that has been on this final in this country has been ridiculous. Like, of course, if it got to a penalty, I mean, I do think it was fate. It was going to have to go to penalties. Like, England were, of course, going to have to go to win a trophy finally. They would have to go to penalties.
Well, let me ask you this: if at the beginning of the game, before you scored, at kickoff, I said to you, this is going to go, you can either take penalties now or just let it ride, what would you have wanted?
Oh man, it's a difficult one. It's tough because penalty is literally
it's 50-50.
They are 50-50, and the frustrating thing as well is Pickford actually made some hella good saves to save that Jorginho penalty. I thought that was going back in. I thought that was going to hit his head and go back in. I was that would have been horrible. Yeah. But that's the thing. We could rewind time, do that all again, and all three could score it.
Yeah, easy. I think so, though. Like, if you gave Saka, Rashford, Sancho another chance, they scored probably 10 out of 10.
Situation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just one of those things. It's just really tough.
I do also. The other thing, before we sort of go a bit more into the game, because I think we should talk about Italy a little bit more because they were very good. I do also want to talk about the abhorrent scenes from English fans again.
Right.
Firstly, at Wembley itself. Videos going around Twitter about fans succeeding in bursting through ticket barriers when they didn't have any tickets, forcing their way into the stadium. And then also videos of Leicester Square, which got absolutely trashed. It's just a disgrace. I have to say, English football fans are a disgrace. They really make me ashamed to be English sometimes because you see it all the time. Whenever you have English clubs going for European Cup finals, England fans going abroad for Euros, World Cups, etc. There's always a story of or videos going around of piazzas in Italy getting chairs thrown around or something. I don't know what it is. I honestly don't know what it is. But I really believe that all of those involved in both incidents, one, they should be banned from ever going to England games again.
Yeah.
Full stop. Two, they should be arrested. I honestly think they should be arrested and spend a little chunk of time in prison because that's just not on. There just is no accountability whatsoever. I don't know where the police were for either of those things. Like,
you think they'd learn by
now? Where are
right?
they?
Yeah, I mean,
I just think it's a disgrace.
That's the thing. So, a bit of an anecdote here. For those that don't know, I'm part Scottish, part English, but I refuse to support England on the basis just on the fans. Like, I love the team. My favorite players play for that team. I absolutely love the team, but I just don't want to be associated with the racism, the chanting, the misogynistic things. It's just everything that is wrong with the modern day man is encompassed in England right now, and those English fans. And I don't know how it's possible for there to be no police presence when, to be honest, there's nothing going on in London right now.
Everyone
Where is the
knew
police?
that's what it was going to be like. Where are they?
Yeah. Where are the police?
I know the Conservatives have got rid of half of our police force anyway, but there should still be a few of them kicking about somewhere.
Be a couple
that
kicking
should be able
about,
to do something.
Yeah, and it's dangerous. So I was reading the newspapers this morning, and there was a man who said he took his 8-year-old kid, and he was walking in late to Wembley, and where his tickets were supposed to be, the entrance to where he was supposed to be going, was filled with grown men trying to basically beat up stewards and get through, and there's no way you can bring your 8-year-old kid. I mean, this is London. You're late all the time, whether it's subway trains or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. And he couldn't go to the game because when he eventually got in, people were in his seats. And do you think those people are going to move out their seats? Do you think they give two hoots about whose seat they're in anyway? So it's
one of the two of the worst footballing disasters involving Liverpool were both due to overcrowding.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
what. Thank God we didn't have something like that.
Well, that's what I heard.
But again.
That's what I heard, was that the stewards opened the doors because people started to stampede and get crushed. So they were saying, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to let everyone in, because then otherwise we're going to get
that's probably
funneling thing.
The protocol nowadays, but I just think that...
But then again, stewards should not really be trying to crowd control. That is supposed to be a trained police situation. Stewards, from what I know, because...
where were the police?
That's exactly...
I saw.
I have friends who have stewarded for Arsenal before, and their protocol is if there's fighting, if there's anything like that, that is not your job. Your job is to look out for possible check tickets, check for possible people who are a problem, and then tell people security to remove them. You are not to remove those people unless it's absolutely necessary. So I mean, these people are not trained in any sort of like martial arts or anything like that. It's just
martial arts.
Like, I don't know what the hell you're supposed to do with these fat drunk English people, it's
a disgrace. Anyway, let's leave that, because that was the sort of the one thing that sort of marred the game. I thought aside from that, I sort of ran from it at the beginning. Italy, they were deserving winners. I think all of the stats sort of in their favour. They had 66% possession, 19 shots to 6. They were just far superior. I think they could have had kind of 2 or 3. They had almost double the passes that England had, 822 to 424. They were just far the better team, and that was sort of what concerned me coming into the game.
Right.
I do think that for a large portion of the first half, and actually, I mean, for someone like Immobile, he was non-existent. I thought we handled him pretty well.
No, he came off pretty early. It was like 56th minute-ish that he came off. So it was very early.
He wasn't very effective. I just thought that the experience, I think, showed as well. Like we said, those Italian players have been through multiple World Cups, European Cups, Champions Leagues, exactly, and that's why when we did do our preview and sort of talked about going into the game, that's why I did say potentially Henderson starting this game could have been advantageous for England. I have to say, I thought Declan Rice was actually probably one of our best players on the night.
He was really good.
Fantastic. He was really good. Calvin Phillips was solid as well. Kane, non-existent. I think
Mason Mount was the worst, finished, for sure.
Yeah, Mason Mount was the worst player on the pitch. Kane, I think it has to be discussed, actually had a pretty bad tournament.
He didn't do very much.
His transfer value, if anything, has probably gone down, which Man City will be delighted about, I imagine.
But he just really... I hate saying this because he is a fantastic player, but he just doesn't seem to step up in the big moments. Whether it's for Tottenham or whether... I mean, he can score however many goals he wants in a Premier League game because there's no real consequence to losing a Premier League game. There's not that much pressure.
He's scoring hat-tricks against Burnley. But...
Yeah, exactly. But when you come to, Champions League finals or Champions League in general or international tournaments, just doesn't seem to be there. And I don't know if that's because he's used to something else at Tottenham, but I don't think so because Tottenham are
I think,
nowhere
as
near,
we said,
near as
even
good as the England
even
team.
for Tottenham, he's not really performing
Yeah,
for those big games.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I just think again he for supposedly the captain of the England team. I
right,
really don't think he stepped up at all, sort of throughout the tournament. I've not been impressed with Harry Kane. Um, I mean, just generally as a neutral, slightly neutral fan against England. What would you sort of say about their whole tournament? Obviously, we have got to the final,
right.
haven't won. Would you call that a success? I mean, obviously, we talked about the poll about
Yeah,
Gareth Southgate staying on.
right.
Do you think he deserves to stay on?
See, England are in a unique spot here because they had a very easy group. They played Scotland, who are,
Again,
yeah,
after the World Cup again, another really
constantly
easy
easy
path. Yeah.
groups. And I guess that's the good thing about being ranked very high in FIFA rankings. You never really get that group of death. It's very difficult anyway. So not only did they have an easy group, they had a very easy run in against Ukraine, Germany, and Denmark. And then not only that, but they played 7 of their 8 games at home. So they traveled the least out of anyone in the Euro tournament. Now, a lot of people will say, yeah, well, traveling in the 21st century when you have first class private jets and all that isn't that hard. Well, it's a lot harder than staying at home in London. I know they're not with their families, but they're near their families. They got all that support.
Yep.
I think the allocation at Wembley was something like only 10% to the Italians, 90% to English people. Everything went for England, and to me that's a failure just because you're playing at home and you've had it easy and you're not traveling. That's a culmination of, here, this is as close as we can possibly give you, England, for a successful tournament, without giving it to you on a complete plate. So to me, it's a bit of a failure. If I was saying, we were playing this tournament in Germany, and I would say it's pretty successful because, it's away, you're playing harder teams probably, there's a lot of other different things. So to me, it's a bit of a failure. I think this is a bigger failure because of that shootout. You have created this thing for a lot of players in their mind that shootout is going to be potentially harmful down the road. And, I'm wearing my Saka shirt.
Oh, yeah,
And,
I love that.
and I, as an Arsenal fan, and I really care more about club football than international football more than anything. As an Arsenal fan now, I am very, very worried when the time comes for a penalty shootout, be it, if we ever get back into Champions League,
not that you're going to be getting
Europa League, maybe in the FA Cup. Maybe in the FA Cup, I would be worried. I'm worried for Saka and his confidence because not only has he missed a penalty, and that's fine. I think missing a penalty is just part of being a football player. Messi's missed one, Ronaldo's missed many. It's a 50-50. And you're playing against, a top goalkeeper in Donnarumma. Let's not forget that. He's playing against the goalkeeper of the tournament here, who is a giant.
Wasn't he the player of the tournament, I think? I'm
unsure if he's player of the tournament. I remember he was a goalkeeper of the tournament, and he was in the team of the tournament as well. But he could well have been because he does deserve that. But it's not only that, but it's the reaction to that afterwards on social media. Like, we've already talked about this, but the reaction towards Saka on social media, and not just Saka, but it's also Marcus Rashford and Sancho. But I'd say more so Saka because he was the decisive penalty taker. Rashford was very early on. Sancho was after him. So those two kind of get swept under the rug a little bit more than Saka's does, perhaps, because the TV is on him straight after Italy, after he misses that, and Italy wins. So I'm very concerned in that sense, but hopefully he's one of those players that kind of just take that summer off a little bit longer than the rest of the Arsenal players, brush it off, and hopefully come back stronger from this, because I'm sure the support around him is going to be fantastic, from whether it's Arsenal players, David Beckham, all the other England players in the team all came to kind of defend him almost, and that was all really great to see. But it's one thing having that support, it's another thing when you step up to take another penalty. And I kind of hope, I don't know, is it one of those things where you give him a penalty to kind of say, hey, go take this next penalty and show that you can do it? But what happens if he misses that one? Then it's like, I really can't take them. So it's just one of those. It's one of those things I think is going to be very, very difficult in the long run for him. But he's only 19. So, by the time he's 24, that's 5 years later. Hopefully he's a changed man and he comes back and scores, in the World Cup finals for England at some point. So
yeah, that'd be nice.
So that would be nice.
I think that's one thing that sort of England do have on their side. If you look at the squad that they've called up, they do have a lot of players under that sort of 24 age bracket.
Yeah.
Dean Henderson, Trent, Alexander-Arnold, Ben Chilwell, Reece James.
If he's selected.
If he's selected. Jude Bellingham, Phil Foden, Mason Mount, Declan Rice, Saka, Sancho, Lewin, Rashford. There's a large portion of this team is young. I mean, before a lot of these are going to be still under the age of sort of 24 before we even have the World Cup.
Exactly.
Next 18 months.
That's what I would give praise to Gareth Southgate, is that he picked a young team and it was kind of like, here's the experience of it. Because if you bring in that Foden, the Saka, the Mason Mounts to the World Cup, they don't really have any more experience than they had, this time last year, before this tournament. Now that's kind of like, okay, you have this international experience, you're molding it. You've got I mean, how tight knit is that group going to be right now after like going through the heartbreak of losing the Euros? I think it's kind of going to make them stronger. I think it's going to make them more formidable rather than anything else. I think this group is different to the ones we've had in England previously. And I know we say that probably every time there's a new England crop that comes in, but this really does feel different with it's really, really talented players. So for their sake and only their sake only, because I don't care about English fans or anything like that. I'm really just care about the players here. For their sake, I really hope it's kind of like brush it off, learn from it. We're only 19 to 24 years old. Let's go again. And the bigger players, the older players, I should say, like Harry Kane, who is the senior figure probably in that team, really needs to kind of do something. I think do something more.
Oh God, yeah. I think sort of with the World Cup being so close, that's sort of the only thing that's making me sort of be a bit hesitant about forcing Southgate off with a pitchfork at this current moment.
Well, who do you bring in? Who is available that says, yeah, I want to take that England job where it has the most pressure of any job really in the world, internationally anywhere, where you got fans at the very beginning of tournaments saying it's coming home, and who really wants to take on that responsibility? I don't think there's going to be many people. Frank Lampard maybe, but then again, like. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, to go from Chelsea, where he sort of didn't do that well, to then take on the England job. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be.
But then, like, who else is there? There's not really that many England, because you really want an English manager, don't you? You're not really wanting to go back to.
This is the argument. I mean, one manager who is available, who has won a lot of things, who could be quite an interesting appointment, Zinedine Zidane.
There's no way he would ever manage England. I don't
think he ever would, but
I don't think there's any shot.
At least I think you'd play some more exciting football, I think.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
No, I think with the World Cup so close, I think it makes more sense to give Southgate the World Cup. I do think he needs to change his play style a little bit, because again, I think if we'd actually pushed a little bit, I was expecting in that game, okay, Italy are going to have to push. This could be the opportunity that we catch them on the counter and we end up getting a second maybe, but there just wasn't that at all. I did think we improved when he made the substitution of taking off a defender and putting on Henderson, I think it was, and we moved to a 4 at the back, 3 in midfield, because that's where we were sort of getting a bit overrun.
Right.
And I thought that improved a little bit at that point again. But then we sort of slipped back into the just sitting back, taking wave after wave of attack, and it was all sort of for nothing. So I do think he's got some thinking to do about his play style and how we use again.
So negative.
The attacking players this team has,
right? Yeah. Exactly.
And we're just not really utilizing them at all. I think it's such a waste.
This team's not built for defending, though. That's the thing. You can't withstand that pressure when you have Mason Mount and Raheem Sterling, who are two guys, especially Raheem Sterling, who is a guy who is probably not used to defending all that much for Manchester City. He is used to attacking a lot. Same with probably Phil Foden. I'd say that's why I would have started Saka over Mason Mount, because he is a natural, left back or left wing back. He has played that a lot for Arsenal. He knows how to defend. He's kind of like Arsenal's backup to Kieran Tierney. So that's why I, as like an Arsenal fan, was kind of like, well, you're going to play Mason Mount, who I don't really ever really see defending all that much compared to Bukayo Saka, who has had the start the last couple of games. And yeah, like you were saying, like, why are we not using, we've got probably the most talented attacking squads in Europe, and you're not attacking with them. It's kind of like you break, counter attack, hope to score, and then sit back and defend, and then hit it to Harry Kane. Hopefully you can hold it up and then play it off to one of the attacking midfielders, and it kind of like didn't make all that much sense to me at all. And we also have to remember, Italy played without Spinazzola, their best player, and also Chiesa, who was, to me, man of the match. That guy was on a tear and could have scored two or three fantastic goals.
Yeah, he had that long range shot.
Oh my goodness, that guy! I didn't realize how good Chiesa was until this game here, and I'd watched him previously against Spain and others, but this was really his game. Kind of like Spinazzola wasn't there, Immobile wasn't playing that well. So he kind of like took it by the scruff of the neck and was kind of like, okay, give me the ball and I'm going to drive at this England defense and make something happen. Then he went off injured. So Italy were down their two best attacking players. I know they still have a very talented team, but that was their two very best players. Yeah. It was kind of like England's chance there to kind of say, okay, come on, let's go for it here.
A little bit.
Yeah, but they just didn't push after the 7th minute, basically. It was just let's sit back and defend. And I think that's going to be kind of like the memory of this Euros, not how much England achieved, because they did play some very good football throughout the group stages and early on. But, it really comes down to, can you finish, what's put in front of you, and England really, really could not. So
could not. It is a shame. Again, I think for those of you that don't know, I've been half and half. I'm half English, half French. So I feel as though
better than me.
More, I feel I'm slightly more subjective about England, and I'm not completely sucked in by hashtag it's coming home and all that. Although I do like saying it quite a lot to piss you guys off. It just would have been nice to have finally sort of ended the curse or the whatever it is that seems to be have a stranglehold on England and the inability to get over the line in these top tournaments. I get what you're saying about every time we get this new crop of, or this new group of core young players coming through, people say, oh, this is the best England side and this is the best England side. I do genuinely think, especially with the attacking talent that we have, not so sure about moving further back the pitch. I'm still not convinced by a Maguire-Stones partnership. Keeper, I think if Henderson has a good couple of seasons to take over from Pickford, although he did well in the penalty shootout.
Is Pickford really erratic? Like his facial expressions and like the stuff he does, like
strange things.
Really, and also I really thought, at the beginning of the game when Maguire gave away that corner, I was like, oh, here we go, the panic. Do you remember that? At the very beginning, Maguire like passes back to Pickford, just straight out for a corner. I was like, oh, here we go. I thought at that moment I was like, Italy are gonna have an easy game if Maguire is not, and Maguire and Pickford are not on the same page.
If he's just kicking out play for goal kicks, that's
but to be fair, England did make it to penalties, which is, I predicted 3-1 to Italy. So, and I really thought Italy were a vastly superior team. And although statistically they were on the day, England did still manage to hold off one of the best team in Europe to penalties at home. At home, I'll give them that. Without one of their best players, I'll give them that. But still, it's progress. I think it's progress.
That's the thing. I think
in the end,
that's what we need to try and focus on. Yeah, we got to the final. Only got the semi-final in the World Cup last time, so there is some progress there. I just don't see really the progress on the pitch. Like you said, we have another easy route through to the final. I still don't look at that team and think, as a Liverpool fan, for the last, apart from that, maybe not so much last season, but for 2 years before that, when Liverpool were playing, I just expected us to win. We were in that zone. We would scare opposition. I feel that England have the players that we should go into games expecting to win, putting
Right.
fear in opponents' hearts, and I just don't think there is that. Which is it just seems mad considering the options that are there. Like again, like Kane is one of the best strikers in the world. Sterling
Would you
has been
start
playing
Kane
consistently
in
at the
the
top
World
for
Cup
years.
then? Because
He will.
but what
He
if
will.
you were manager? Who would you put up? Would you put Calvert-Lewin up top? Would you try not play without a striker? Kind of play with that Man City style where you play, three attackers but not really a striker, and there you just kind of like play a fluid top three. What do you do?
I think it would be foolish not to really. Let's be honest.
Right.
At the end of the day, again, he is one of the best strikers in the world. He had a poor tournament, still scored 3 goals, which is not anything to massively write home about, but he scored. When he's had opportunities, he has taken them. I just don't think he's really had that many opportunities, which again could be either he's getting in the wrong positions, or we're not providing him the right support. Don't know.
Or perhaps he's just coming up against better players than he is in the. I mean, this is the best of the best in Europe coming.
Essentially, yeah.
And also, we have to remember that these teams who England are coming against are planning for. This is the Harry Kane show. Like we have to, if we shut off Harry Kane, England have to go really through Raheem Sterling, and that's about it. It was Raheem Sterling and Harry Kane were the only ones that were really providing any attacking sense, really. And if you shut off Harry Kane, then you're putting a lot of pressure on Raheem Sterling to go out there and ball out. So, I think there's a lot of planning that does go into these international tournaments where, months ahead that, okay, we've got Harry Kane coming up, how are we going to shut him down?
What are we going to do about him,
But yeah, again, like, these are not good teams. I mean, you struggled mightily against Scotland, who defensively are not a good team.
Yeah, not fantastic,
Ukraine did very well against, but that's Ukraine. I don't even think they should have been in the Euros to begin with. And then, Denmark are a pretty good team, and Germany are...
But again, they were riding on an emotional high.
Yeah, if you took Italy's route where you had to play Belgium and Spain, I think
we wouldn't have got through.
Exactly. I really think, and also you remember Italy really did have to go the full, extra time, 90 minutes extra time penalties against Spain. They were exhausted to come through against England, whereas England had a not too difficult time against Denmark. To be honest with you, the last 30 minutes kind of seemed like a bit of a cruise. But yeah, very interesting anyway. But yeah.
I think just the last on Kane, I think on whether we'd start him or not, I think the options behind him are still not fantastic. I mean, Calvert-Lewin did have a good season last year for Italy, for Everton.
Might be changing nationality after this.
yeah, he's gonna see who else he can go and play for. Yeah, no, I think he had a good season. He must have scored a good.
He's on my fantasy team, so he must have been pretty good.
Yeah, he did pretty alright, I think.
Yeah. I guess that comes to question is this coming Premier League season is rather important for Southgate because you really have to watch who's on top of their form this season. What happens if Sancho is a bust at Manchester United? Are you really going to waste a space on him again? Because really was not a waste of space, but he didn't do anything in the tournament when there was all this hype around him. Are you going to put it on other players? Like, are you going to use the same formation with that 2 holding midfield? There's so much to think about for England because in my eyes, it was a failure. And then because I'm thinking of it as a failure, I'm like, well, something has to change. You can't go back into the World Cup with, against better teams. I mean, we're going to have Brazil's and Argentina's in here instead of some smaller teams. You're not going to be playing against Scotland. You're not going to be playing against those smaller teams. You're going to be playing against the best of the best.
Scotland might make it, or are they out already?
They might make it, but it's very difficult,
not very
I think.
Optimistic.
Yeah, I'm not really optimistic. Well, they did very well, but again, I'm saying, Argentina compared to Scotland, Brazil versus Scotland is a different animal. So, I guess we'll wait and see because it's going to be... This next season is going to be really interesting because a lot of players have a lot to show. And then, the Qatar World Cup in general. One thing I do want to touch on before we wrap up, because this was news coming out earlier this morning. In 2030, the World Cup is supposed to be held in England along with Ireland. And that might be in jeopardy now because... of the way England fans are acting. Can we really bring a big tournament back to England after what happened? What happens if England do get to the World Cup finals and that is basically played out all over again? What are your thoughts on it? Do you really think, you're English, you live in England, do you deserve to have the World Cup set in England in 9 years time, or do you think there should be some repercussions for England for the way they're acting? Because if you keep rewarding something that is bad and it continues to happen, it's just going to continue to happen. So what do you do to do it? Do you take away a World Cup? Do you just suspend England? Do you fine them? Do you fine these people who are responsible? Like, what do you do? What is your opinion?
It's a difficult one because you don't necessarily want to punish the team because the team's done nothing wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, you have to think about, okay, the people that have misbehaved, what sort of, if you make a statement and say, okay, we're doing this, what's going to then make them say, okay, we don't want to get into this situation again.
Right.
Taking away a World Cup, I'd like to think that would stop people from messing around and doing those sorts of things.
The issue is, like, this has been happening since my dad was a kid. So my dad would go to Scotland games and some England games and stuff like that. So he's been saying hooliganism has been around ever since football was born, but there's never really been anything done by it. FIFA will say we're fining you £50,000, and that's not even the wages of one English player. Like, that doesn't do anything. That's not. It's meaningless. Something really has to be done.
It is always England fans. Like, you never hear of. I mean, the only time you hear about other fans doing it is sometimes the Eastern Europeans can be a bit.
Exactly.
But you never get. I can't think of another occasion.
It doesn't happen in like Germany or France or anything like that. You
European
don't see
nations at all. No,
yeah, they're actually rather nice to visiting fans. Like they're kind of like hospitality, whereas English fans have this kind of like war thing where it's like we're at war with you. And we have to.
It is that. It is like we are going to war against you. We have to hate you.
Yeah.
I saw a thread on Twitter from an England fan who was in Denmark for the Denmark game.
Yeah.
I think he lives there. Maybe went to the pub or the whatever they call the drinking place in Denmark. Went there to watch the game, and I think initially was a little bit hesitant.
Right.
Didn't want to kind of come out and say, "Oh,
Denmark's the one place I'd want to go and be happy there."
yeah, exactly, yeah. But then I think he was with some Danish friends who like ended up telling some other people in the pub, and he said they're all super nice. Like no matter the fact that England won, they were congratulating him. They were like, "Oh, celebrate, man! You got to the final."
Yeah.
Whereas then there was a story a few days ago, from when England played Denmark, that I think there was a Danish fan at Wembley who ended up getting stabbed.
Right.
Like, why? I just don't understand what brings this sort of behavior out of people. It's just.
Yeah. Well, because
the
thing is, there's. People were quoting thousands of people storming Wembley. Whether thousands got in or not, I have my doubts, but definitely in the hundreds. So finding these people is going to be very, very difficult, period. So you really have to do something to kind of like kick it out of football, because we hear the boos in the stadium, we know what types of people there are, and people do say it's a loud minority. It's a loud minority. Is it really though? Is it really a loud minority?
I'm not sure it is a minority anymore. Yeah.
When you have a loud minority, it's often drowned out and protected by those who are majority. If I'm an England fan at a game and I see those hooligans or something, I would try my best to protect those Italian people, but no, that didn't seem to happen. It just seemed to be everyone was going for these Italian fans. And I don't want to keep going on and on about this, but I agree with you. It sucks for the players because they have nothing to do with this, and I'm sure they condone it just as strongly as we do. But something has to be done, and
I think so that's the thing. If you don't do something, it's going to keep happening. And it might take removing the World Cup from us.
Yeah.
For people to actually
I think that's a minimum, though. I think that really should be a minimum, because I think a threat of, we're going to give you these 9 years to like settle down, if you will. And if we have one more instance of it, then we can kick you out of the tournament. You won't be hosting. You can host the World Cup, but England won't be in it. And see how that goes down, because you're going to be hosting a World Cup, but none of your fans are allowed in. None of your fans will be participating because England are not going to be part of it.
Yeah.
That would be kind of like a
I
kick in your face that it's in your back garden, and historically, whoever hosts the tournament is automatically in. We saw that with South Africa in was it 2012 World Cup, however long ago that was.
2010. That
was 2010. God, that was ages ago. We were in high school. I was watching that in Ziara.
Yes. Oh my God, surrounded by old Arab men.
Yeah. So it would be the first time that a host nation didn't get to have their team in it. And you could give it to Ireland and Northern Ireland, for example. That would be big, or Scotland.
Scotland, the pity vote, I think something has to be. It will be interesting because England were getting investigated from the Denmark game for shining the laser in Schmeichel's face.
Right, yeah,
I think doing the national anthem, and there was something else.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming they're going to have to include the whole storming of the gates and such as well.
And the security aspect too. I mean, what the hell? Like, what?
Yeah, you cannot be having that happen at a World Cup. Absolutely not.
Someone was
saying, having it at Euros.
Yeah, exactly. And a final at that. So someone was saying, remember the unfortunate attack when it was France against Germany in the Stade de France, right? Remember when that happened, the terrorist attack? And the stewards managed to stop the attack from happening. Now imagine that happening at Wembley. The stewards would have no shot, no chance if there was any attempt on that. And God forbid that to ever happen. But that just shows you how bad. You know that meme where the guy's like trying to feel up the person, and he doesn't even touch them. That felt like what I was watching at Wembley. Like he just.
I mean, that is 100%. That's an English steward at like Chelsea or something. So that just shows the standard. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think there's going to be a lot of question marks. It'll be interesting to see what FIFA do, because I think they do sort of need to bring the hammer down. Yeah. They need to make a stand.
That's a big statement coming from an England fan. You need to punish yourselves.
But this is the thing. Like I said, it makes me ashamed to be English. See people doing those sorts of things.
Yeah, exactly.
And if that's what it takes for these people to finally realize you can't behave like that.
I mean,
you cannot behave like that.
I mean, I'm a Brit living abroad, so I get the anytime anything happens in England, the Americans are like, well, I didn't realize that happened in England, with racism. I thought that was only here that it happens. And I'm like, no, it's definitely not. It's definitely not. I mean, we have a lot of issues in the United Kingdom that for sure that are not really being addressed until recently. And that's why I really, really think that, people like Marcus Rashford are so important to the England squad. Even if it's not on the pitch, it's off the pitch. He makes the biggest difference, all the difference in the world. He does more than most of the politicians do. So
Speaking of politicians, again, there were several MPs and political commentators and such that were posting things on Twitter saying, "Oh, you should focus on penalties, not politics." When this man's an MBE, he's feeding children when you're taking a nice wage to do absolutely nothing. Like, it is a disgrace. And again, there was a big talking point. We'll wrap it after this because we're going for a long time. But a big talking point over the last sort of 48 hours was politicians like Boris Johnson and Priti Patel, who both of them said that it was absolutely fine for English fans to boo players taking the knee. Then getting behind England and using that on their Twitter accounts to sort of get on the England wave, and again they then come out and condemn the sort of the racist comments on Instagram and Twitter and blah blah blah. But when you're saying that it's fine to boo people for taking a knee to stand against that sort of behaviour, how are you surprised then people are doing it?
Well, it's the same people, isn't it? It's the same people. The same people who are beating up and harassing and assaulting others are the same people booing. It's like it's the same crowd. And something I just do want to touch on. The last thing, I swear, I keep saying this is the last thing I'm going to touch on. But social media companies, don't we think we should be putting them to a greater standard? Because I remember that when Christian Eriksen had that terrible incident, he was trending for 15 minutes before Twitter took his thing off the trending page because of the videos and the photos were too graphic and horrific. So if Twitter and Instagram have the power to do this, why do they not have the power to censor people who say those racist things to Saka, Rashford, Sancho, or just in general? It doesn't have to be towards football players, it doesn't have to be towards NFL or basketball players or any sports people or even politicians. just in general, why do we not
Generalism,
censor and just completely cut these people off? And a lot of people will be like, well, it's freedom of speech. But the thing is with freedom of speech is that it goes to a level where it becomes a massive, massive issue in society. And we're seeing that now. If we cut off those people who are, you know, fighting and all that kind of stuff, we can cut them off of social media. It makes it a safer place for people to be. And something really has to be done because, you know, we can't just continue saying, yeah, this is terrible, it's not on, we have to stop racism. It doesn't do anything.
You get a flashpoint.
It doesn't do anything.
You get a flashpoint. Few celebs come out and say, "Oh, you know, this is bad. Don't do this."
Yeah, and how do you protect these guys? I mean, imagine being 19. I mean, we're 25 now. Imagine being 19 and going on your Twitter after representing your country and you know, playing your heart out.
Doing a good job of it.
Yeah, exactly. And not these guys in England for the first time in a long time are probably like a perfect squad where none of them have like any of those off the field issues. They all seem to be very, very good role models.
Nice guys.
Excellent guys. And going on your Twitter feed and seeing like, I'm not going to repeat the comments, but the nasty, nasty comments that they receive. I mean, it would just, I mean, poor Saka, poor Sancho and Rashford. It's just terrible.
I think
terrible.
one of the I'm sure this has probably been suggested in the past, but I don't see why they're not doing this now. If you want to set up a Twitter or an Instagram, you have to attach an ID with that. Passport, driving license.
I'd be more than happy to do that.
You could. It doesn't bother me whatsoever.
Because then there's repercussions to it.
You can still attach. Yeah, you can still attach multiple accounts to that. There's no problem with doing that. If you don't want to attach that ID, don't care. Don't come onto our website. Then. It would be very easy for them to set that up. I don't know why they don't.
Yeah, it's just the big issue is you know, the whole privacy issue. You want to be anonymous, and that's a big thing. Probably not as big in the UK because people are a bit smarter in the UK, but in the USA here anyway, it's very much like, I do what I want. I don't have to give my government issued ID. I don't have to give my government issued name. That's a huge thing here. You know, people are like protecting the name. It's like
and that's weird. Not. It doesn't necessarily mean that you would have to then. You could still have like an account that's not like the account name and the handle could be whatever you want.
Right, exactly.
But then Twitter still have that information so that if you start.
But it's just Twitter having that information is the issue for a lot of people. And I know for me and you, because we're not idiots and we don't do anything stupid online, giving our passports or driver's license, it's not even like a second thought. It'd just be a bit of a hassle to, you know, scan it and that would be about it. But just something to think about.
And this is the thing that from I don't know who runs Twitter nowadays, or Zuckerberg running Instagram.
Jack something. Can't remember his name.
Jack dude. From their perspective, they probably would then lose money, and if they lose money because
they'd lose millions and millions of people.
Yeah, they're not going to do that, are they? They want to make money.
Well,
I feel another example of us going off on a really weird.
We've been going for almost an hour, Sab. It's been 53 minutes. 53
wow,
minutes,
we should. Who knew that England would be such
a talking point?
Good discussion.
Well, this was fun. This was definitely fun.
Yeah,
it was good to hear your thoughts.
I think we did. I think we've got a few people tuning into us, so that's good. We're not speaking to no one. So thank you very much for tuning in. I think we should do this more often. We'll try and maybe get the other guys to join us next time. We'll do a few live things. That unfortunately is the end of the Euros, which is sad.
That's sad. Are you going to be watching Olympic football, by the way?
Probably. I mean, if
something
it's
to watch. Something to watch.
Something. We may talk about it. Potentially,
maybe the finals.
If not, we'll actually have to think of some other topics to talk about because we can't.
There's gonna be a lot of preseason stuff going on, though. To be fair,
that's true.
We'll have that.
Got some photos of Liverpool's preseason in Austria. Nice to see Konate in the kit.
I like how Liverpool and Austria and Arsenal are going up to Scotland.
Are they? nice.
Yeah.
We'll have some more stuff coming out, I'm sure, guys. We recorded a quiz the other day, which is funniest video we've done so far. I can't wait for that to go out. We'll do some more things like that, more sports related stuff, to keep you interested until we get back into Premier League, which
not
isn't too long.
Not long.
Maybe 6-8 weeks, something like that. But I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. We will see you again soon, I'm sure. Yeah.